Hello, I'm Debbie Russ with the BBC News. Tens of thousands of civilians are reported to have fled the major Turkish offensive against Kurdish fighters in northeastern Syria. The Turks say they've killed more than 100 militants since the assault began on Wednesday. There have been waves of air and artillery attacks on nearly 200 targets. Martin Patience is on the Turkish-Syrian border.
What is clear is there's a great deal of panic across the border. Civilians are not going to sit and wait. They're going to take their opportunity to flee southwards to a very uncertain future. One man I spoke to in a town said that hundreds of people were simply sleeping in orchards overnight. And let's not forget, Syria is a country where half the population has already been forced from their homes. Now, humanitarian agencies are warning of potentially a new crisis.
President Erdogan of Turkey has defended his country's attack on Syria, which has been condemned by the Europeans and others. He said that if the EU called the Turkish incursion an occupation, he would send millions of Syrian refugees currently in Turkey to Europe. One of the aims of the Turkish operation is to seize a strip of Syrian territory where they can be settled. Indonesia's Chief Security Minister, General Wiranto, has been stabbed and injured during a visit to a school on the island of Java. Rebecca Henschke reports.
Mobile phone footage shows Indonesia's Chief Security Minister being attacked by a man wielding a knife as he gets out of a car in a town square in Banten province. The minister has reportedly been injured but is in a stable condition. Two suspects, a man and a woman, have been arrested. Police say they believe the attack was inspired by the so-called Islamic State. If confirmed, this would be the country's first attack targeted at a politician.
There are growing calls for the authorities in Mozambique to explain why policemen were behind the killing of a prominent election observer. Anastasio Matavel was shot dead in a governing party stronghold in Gaza province in the south of the country on Monday. The murder has heightened tension ahead of next Tuesday's elections. Our Africa regional editor, Will Ross, reports.
At Anastasio Matavel's funeral, religious leaders spoke of a reign of tyranny, and the mayor of Xai-Xai said he felt profound revulsion at the murder. The gunman nearly got away with it, but after firing 10 bullets at Mr. Matavel, they crashed the getaway car. 2 of them died on the spot. Witnesses meant this crime couldn't be covered up, and the police were forced to make the shocking announcement that 4 of the 5 gunmen were members of an elite police unit known as the Rapid Intervention Force. The election observer's murder has given some credence to the opposition's claim that police death squads have been operating in Mozambique for years.
You're listening to the World News from the BBC. The authorities in Indian-administered Kashmir have lifted the ban on tourists and pilgrims, which they imposed more than 2 months ago. It was brought in just before the government announced a controversial change in the state's political status, which curtails its autonomy. South Africa's elite anti-corruption unit has raided properties linked to a Durban mayor who was recently sacked following a multi-million-dollar corruption scandal. Officials seized luxury goods from Zandile Gumedi's home. The authorities believe the assets are linked to Ms. Gumedi's ongoing fraud and corruption case. She's pleaded not guilty. The Romanian government has lost a crucial no-confidence vote just weeks ahead of a presidential election. The parliament narrowly voted to dismiss the centre-left government of Prime Minister Viorica Dăncilă. She lost her parliamentary majority in August when her Social Democrat Party's junior coalition partner withdrew its support. Ms Dăncilă is a candidate in the presidential ballot due to be held on the 10th of November. The Polish author Olga Tokarczuk and the Austrian playwright Peter Handke have both been awarded Nobel Prizes for literature. Tokarczuk was given the 2018 prize a year late. The 2019 Nobel Literature Prize went to Peter Handke for what was described as his work of linguistic ingenuity, exploring the periphery of human experience. Vincent Dowd is the BBC's arts correspondent.
Peter Handke is probably rather better known. He's 76 now. He's been very well known in Germany and Austria. I would say 30 years ago he was very well known also in the English-speaking world, less so, also for writing movies as well as writing novels. Caused a lot of controversy a few years ago at the funeral of Slobodan Milosevic. He's quite a political writer. He actually was against the NATO bombing in Serbia. And then Olga Tokarczuk, she's actually rather younger. She's 57, which in fact is relatively young for a Nobel laureate. She's Polish. She started out as a psychologist. She writes rather heavy, difficult novels.
BBC News.